Hey Kerbal Space Friends, how's everybody doing? And today we are making a STOVL. Alright, so I already know what a STOVL is, went over that last time, and now here's how to make one. A lot of it is very basic plane building 101 if you will, with a couple of tricks that I want to share with you guys just to help you get your STOVLs working. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm building something to put the engines on. Just personal preference, really. I don't like to put just engines sticking out of parts of the fuselage when they're the big lifter engines. I'll do that with the Junos on the side every now and then, but I don't know. I've seen a lot of people like just put a fuselage and just stick an engine on the bottom of it, and then just clip it up into it. Not judging, you know. You do what you need to do. I just personally don't like it. I'd rather build a structure on it. I mean, it's not like I'm free of any kind of clipping cheating. I am going to clip a structure right through it so I can continue to build behind the engine. But yeah, I just like to put in this little plate, put batteries or something on the top, and then just continue building. Due to the new command thing where you can just hold Alt so that it doesn't do anything but the bubbles, this is not that new, but you can do that. That little girder section is almost perfect to house right around that engine. Okay, so almost done with the basic design. So let's make a little tiny one just to start. Okay. Now I want it to be fast, so I'm going to put on extra air intakes and extra engines. But of course, before that we need control wheels. And something in the front. I don't like to put three of the same, so I usually put one of the round ones in the front of that, and then one of the little shot cones in the other one. There we go. You guys have seen that a couple times now. We of course need two. Now here's the trick / problem with STOVLs. We need to get the center of mass and the center of thrust leveled off for both flight modes, both hovering and conventional flight. So to hover, I'm going to thruster limiter these to nothing, and let's see what happens. So as you can see, the weight is way forward of where the thrust is. So not a huge deal. Let's move that back. Actually, I think I can probably do this better by putting a bigger tank. Let's put one of these. Then I'll put the engine. Looks much better. Let's see. Now we're about to run into our first problem. I'm going to illustrate what it is by taking this engine off and putting it back on, and I'll show you why. Even with the thrust limited, if you guys notice, the center of mass shifts forward when I put on the engine. Doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Because this thing is massive, it should be shifting backwards, right? Well, here's why not. The center of mass of the engine is calculated in front of where you attach it. So let me show you an exaggerated example. Let's say that I put just a little probe core, and I aim it up, and I put a jet engine on the bottom of it. The center of mass is actually hovering above the engine, or is way in front of the engine. All the material of the craft is here. The center of mass is way out there in the middle of nowhere. Now the problem that this causes is with the pusher's thrust. because now the engine has moved the center of mass of the craft. This engine has pushed the center of mass of the craft up. These engines are now pushing below the center of mass. So if you guys have been building STOVLs lately and notice that your craft pulls up uncontrollably, you cannot stop it from pulling up, that's why. It's because the center of mass is up and the engines are down below. Now, there's a couple of little ways that I've figured out to remedy the situation. 3 specific ones, and I normally use a combination of the 3. I don't actually just put all my eggs in one basket, but let me show you a couple. So let's show the actual problem. So I'm going to cut the thrust here. I'm going to put the thrust back over here, and when I put the mass and center of thrust, we'll see it pretty clearly. This is way below that. Now in lighter crafts that don't have as many engines, what I will do is I'll just make these side things fuel compartments with no engines whatsoever. And very similar to how we move the center of mass forward, all I'm going to do here is just drop it. Since there's no engine on these, I can drop it, align the balls, move them closer together so it doesn't look too bad. I can rotate these cones in there so it looks like it's kind of part of the thing. And that's not looking too bad. Now I can later put some wings or stuff over that, but that's put the center of mass back in the center, back in line with the engine, because we did it that way, alright? So that's one way to do it. As you can see with this one. Showed you guys this one in the last video. If you notice, these are just intakes and fuel, and they're well below the center of mass of the craft where the engine is. That's how this one stays stable. Okay. Second is with an offset engine. So on one like this that has this thing in the middle, I wouldn't be able to put one up here, though I've done that in the past. But you can do things like, for example, put some of these small tanks, which aren't that heavy, and then put Junos up on top. And that will create more thrust up where the center of mass is and help the design. Well, go away. Alright, these are shut down. Now this also allows you to balance it yourself, because you can, for example, thrust limiter these a little bit to move it up and align it. That's, for example, the technique I employed with this one. This is another one that I showed you guys yesterday. See, it has that third Weasley up there. That's only to balance out the thrust. That's why it's there. And I made a couple of different combinations of this. So, for example, this one that I was working on today has a little of both. These have no engine. They're just gas and intake, and they're slightly below. And then I have these engines on top, which raise the thrust a little bit. This one's actually one of my favorites. It's slow, because it only has 3 Junos and a Weasley pushing. But it's very, very stable and flies very, very nice. And I like this wing design. It's maneuverable and nice. Now the third way to do this is cheating. No, I'm just going to say it's cheating. There's just no two ways about it. So, if putting an engine aiming down throws the center of mass up, then why can't we just put another engine aiming up to throw the center of mass back down? That would balance this. Of course. Let's see. So that engine center of mass is low. This engine center of mass is high. Ends up being right in the middle. Now, the reason why I say that this is cheating is this actually works really well because you just put the thrust limiter, the thrust reverser, and now this one's pushing down and this one's lifting up. When you make them like this, you don't actually need the Junos. This has more than enough lift to lift even a heavier craft like this with 3 engines. Now, since we're going to cheat, let's cheat, with a passion. And what I also did to make it look better is I scooted these engines into each other. So it's kind of like this hybrid monster engine. And I think it looks really cool because you have the blade looking top of one engine with the turbine looking bottom of the other all sitting there together. So that has a lot of lift. Now I've built one. It's actually almost identical to this one, so I might as well just load that one. I built one using this system right here. Almost identical. Or is identical. I hadn't put any wings on the other one. But I was able to put the wings right in the middle, the landing right in the middle. There was very, very little balance problems with this craft. Now, let's reload the other one that's not so cheaty, because it's funner. Okay. Now, staging. Since we're going to use the switching from wet to dry mode on this engine as our, last ditch altitude control, I have that set to the spacebar. So the spacebar turns on the afterburner, gives us a huge boost of thrust. Right? Then number 1, I have all the pushers, which in this case are 3. Number 3, I have the lifters, so I can just, fly in standard mode. And number 2, I normally use for anything weird or extra that we might want to use. In this case, in the case of this one, since it has 2 Junos and a Weasley pushing, since I wanted to use the Weasley for brakes, I have 2 as a thrust reverser, but also to toggle the Junos. So if I hit the brakes, the Junos shut down and the Weasley turns backwards. Now the nice thing about having the toggle afterburner or dry mode on the Panther is when you turn on the engines, it immediately turns on the afterburner. That's how I get the scrambles on these, because I put it to full throttle. When I hit space bar, these things are just pushing 100%, and then away I go. Now this one's not too quick, because like I said, it only has 1 Weasley pushing and a couple of Junos. But when you balance them out, especially with the aerodynamics and the control wheels, oh, by the way, the control wheels, you almost always have to have 4. When I put just 2 on the prototype of this one, it was very, very, very difficult to control. It's like we need to have quite a bit of control wheels to keep them in check. But then with the combination of the aerodynamics, the control wheels, and the thrust vectoring, I'm astonished at how well these things fly. You can just fly them anywhere. Right, low level, through things, around things. Yeah, they're a lot of fun. They're also almost impossible to stall out. Of course, if you put enough air intakes. Air intakes are the secret to these things. So, a couple of little, finished STOVLs. So hopefully you guys have fun doing the challenge ones and flying these things around the vehicle assembly building. They're a lot of fun. They're kind of like, I don't know, they're kind of like really easy to control helicopters or something. You can just go wherever you want. I have become very proficient at the, turn the engine off, turn the engine back on, okay. Go to the afterburner. Okay, now we're going fast. Okay, now we're going slow. Now we're going high. Now we're going low. This is probably going to be me crashing. Or not. Yeah, so I know this is going to be a relatively short video, but hopefully this will, help you figure out some stuff about your STOVLs. It just took me a long time to figure out what was going on with the balance. Why they all pulled up uncontrollably and there's nothing I could apparently do about it. I'm going to crash now. No. Again, by the way, for the challenge, if you guys do, do your engine clipping tricks or whatever, that's perfectly fine. There's no grand prize. It's not like they're gonna get disqualified or anything. I just want to see what everybody's up to, see if anybody else is building ships like this, or is it just me. This is all I've been doing for like 2 months. Well, that's not exactly true. I mean, there has been some other stuff. I built a space station. That's a complete and total, rip off of one of Veos's ring stations. Let me land this thing and I'll show it to you guys. Are you gonna drop altitude or just gonna sit there and float all day? You know what? Okay. I have actually 2 stations in orbit. One that's just a refueling station, and I finally was able to dock that little shuttle. I think I've shown this shuttle before. It's kind of an interesting design. It's automated, and it's of course an STO, and it just has the passenger crew right here in the back. This is the probe core and fuel tanks. I was running low on just regular fuel to get up into the high atmosphere, so it has the tank wings and these little tanks added there on the bottom. I like the way that thing flies. This is the actual launch vehicle that brought it up here. You see here the the solid rocket boosters set to the orbit at the bottom, but there was so much fuel left over that I don't feel like throwing it away. I mean, this is 1500 and whatever in orbit. Might as well keep it, right? So I have that dock there. And then at a little higher altitude for other nefarious purposes, I built and put this thing into orbit. Whoa, that took a little while to load. So my ring station, I don't know, it has room for like 1 billion Kerbals. I don't know how many I should fit in here. Should have figured it out. Well, however many fit in there times like 5, and then there's 12 of these. It has a big docking port on one side and a small docking port on the other. This is like a little crew transfer vehicle that I made to go from like station to station or something. Very efficient, lots of RCS, 8 passengers, and can dock on it while it's rotating. Like I said, it's total Veos ripoff. And that's pretty much what I've been up to. So looking forward to fielding you guys' questions and seeing what you guys make with your STOVLs. Still haven't got any Steam requests, but I have faith that those will come slowly but surely. So hope to talk to you guys soon. Thank you very much for watching as always, and fly safe.